In the 1930s, an era of demonstrations and marching in the streets, an adventurous young trio, Cheryl Crawford, Lee Strasberg, and Harold Clurman, decided to start a new theater company. It was a struggle, and it only lasted 10 years, but the group theater has had an influence on nearly everyone who works on the stage, on television, and in film today. Over a period of 5 years, Joanne Woodward, one of the group's many descendants, has sought out as many of the original group members as possible. It is these interviews which are the foundation of this story. Although the group theater has become a part of history, its legacy continues to be passed along. American Masters is made possible by a major grant from the National Endowment for the Arts and the financial support of viewers like you. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the Marilyn M. Simpson Charitable Trust, and Rosalind P. Walter. Additional funding is provided by Giorgio Armani, saluting the spirit and achievement of American Masters.
Williamstown, Massachusetts, summer 1987. From all over America, people have come to this New England college town for a very special event. A celebration of the group theater. A company that lasted barely a decade during the Great Depression of the 30s, and which has been called the bravest and single most significant experiment in the history of the American theater.
We're here to pay homage to a group of men and women, actors, directors, writers, producers, designers, who are the spiritual parents and mentors of all of us.
That summer in Williamstown, we gathered to pay tribute and to reminisce. There was music.
They used to tell me I was building a dream.
Film.
And so I followed the mob.
Voices from the past.
There'll never be a utopia, but I say we must never stop fighting for one.
And great lines from some of the group's productions.
When you mow down the night with headlights, nobody gets you. You're on top of the world then. Nobody laughs. That's it. Speed.
And some original members of the group were there, too. We all felt a great sense of continuity, how the heritage of the group has been passed on one generation to the next, because many of the original group members have become teachers and directors.
The very word acting has nothing to do with memory. It has to do with what we do.
Lee Strasberg trained people like Robert De Niro, Marilyn Monroe, Al Pacino, and Paul Newman.
When they don't happen, the imagination doesn't work, and the actor is left only with the lines, and with what Stanislavsky calls the muscles of the tongue.
The author is
Stella Adler, whose students included Marlon Brando, Warren Beatty, Peter Bogdanovich, James Coburn.
You have to put the life into the words. The author is responsible for the words. He trusts them to you. You must fill them. If not, the author could play the part.
It's like practicing your steps if you're a dancer.
Bobby Lewis taught Meryl Streep, Walter Matthau, Henry Winkler, Faye Dunaway.
So what you have to ask yourself is, what would I do if I were that character in that play by that author? And then you are using your sense of truth to create a character.
Acting is doing.
And Sanford Meisner nurtured names such as Gregory Peck, Tony Randall, Diane Keaton, and Sidney Pollack at the neighborhood playhouse.
Imaginary or emotional? I mean, I've always heard imaginary circumstances.
It's all imaginary. You think Hamlet is real?
I'm Joanne Woodward. I also came here to the Playhouse, and I studied with Sandy Meisner. Sandy was a charter member of that brave experiment known as the group theater. He and 27 others heeded the call of 3 young idealists, Cheryl Crawford, Lee Strasberg, and Harold Clurman. Harold Clurman wrote a book about their tumultuous decade and called it The Fervent Years. When I started studying with Sandy, this book was required reading for all of us. It was an inspiration then, and it still is. A technique of the theater had to be founded on life values. The whole bent of the theater, I reiterated time and again, would be to combine a study of theater craft with a creative content. To put it another way, our interest in the life of our times must lead us to the discovery of those methods that would most truly convey this life through the theater. Well, life was exactly what Harold, Lee, and Cheryl found missing from the New York theater of the late 20s. Lots of plays, lots of actors. On the surface, Broadway was doing all right, but most of it was cut from the same cloth. Drawing room comedies, light